There are reports indicating that U.S. Marines and paratroopers are already moving toward the Persian Gulf. It started with a series of airstrikes called Operation Epic Fury, but now it seems more likely that this is heading toward the possibility of a ground operation. According to the Telegraph, the U.S. has sent around 2,000 soldiers from the elite 82nd Airborne Division to the Gulf. They are already on their way and ready to take action if the talks with Iran fail. They are accompanied by almost the same number of U.S. Marines from the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit and the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit. One of these units is expected to arrive in the Persian Gulf around late March. These units are trained in ground operations. In many instances, they are the first to be deployed when there is a ground invasion. This was their role in the past. But before we begin, don't forget to like this video. This means a lot to us content creators. Thank you very much, and now let's get started. Currently, it is estimated that more than 6,000 elite soldiers are being positioned near Tehran. Because of this, there are growing signs that troops might be deployed on the ground. If this happens, it will bring a major change to the situation in Iran, and it seems that their government is aware of this. That's why even now, signs of preparation and even concern can already be seen. One of the clearest examples is Karg Island. According to the Jerusalem Post and CNN, Iran is rushing to fortify the island. There are reports that they are placing traps in different parts of it, and they are bringing in additional soldiers and air defense systems. This small island plays a major role in Iran's oil exports. This is one of the reasons why it is important to their economy and to the continuity of their government. Because of this, it becomes clear that if a ground operation happens, Karg Island would be one of the possible first targets. And based on Iran's actions, they are ready to defend it because they know how important it is. According to CNN, almost 90% of Iran's oil exports pass through Karg Island. So it's clear why they're making every effort to protect it. If they lose control of the island, the flow of money from oil will stop, and the situation in the Strait of Hormuz will also become more dangerous. One of the things Iran is doing is placing mines around the island. These include anti-armor and anti-personnel mines. According to reports, they are being placed especially along the coast where U.S. forces might land. The goal is to slow down or prevent any amphibious landing, but there's a big problem. Many of their military facilities on the island have already been destroyed due to U.S. airstrikes. What we see now is like a rushed repair and reinforcement of defenses in a place that has already suffered significant damage. On March 13, according to Donald Trump, the military facilities on the island were totally obliterated. Among those destroyed were missile storage bunkers and areas where naval mines were stored. These would have been important if they wanted to defend the island against the landing of U.S. forces. The air defense systems, helicopter hangar, and even the airport control tower were also hit. This kind of attack was clearly carried out to weaken Iran's capabilities on the island. This could possibly be in preparation in case the U.S. deploys troops in the area, but this is not the only possible outcome. There are other ways the U.S. might act, and we'll talk about that next, but even now, you can already see the pressure on Iran, especially when it comes to talks about possible negotiations that could end with Operation Epic Fury. It's still unclear if any negotiations are actually happening. The U.S. says there are negotiations, but according to Iran, it's like the U.S. is just talking to itself. There are also statements from Iran saying they have no intention of talking right now. It seems like this is part of the strategy while both sides prepare for the next move. But behind all of this, it's clear that Iran is worried that the U.S. operation might reach a higher level. And on the other side, you can also see the frustration from Donald Trump as the situation drags on without a clear agreement. On March 26, Donald Trump released a statement on his Truth Social. He said that the actions of the Iranian negotiators were unusual and strange. According to him, it's as if they are begging for the deal, even though in public they say they're just looking at the proposal. He added that it would be better if Iran got serious right away, because once the situation passes a certain point, there's no turning back and things will get even messier. The message is clear, and even though Iran is trying to show that they have the situation under control, there are signs that the opposite is happening. One example is how quickly they are strengthening Karg Island, which shows that they are worried about what might happen next. As more than 6,000 Marines and paratroopers approach, it's still uncertain where the first move will actually strike. Karg Island may not be the main target. It's just one of several possible ways to attack. There's a scenario that's focused not on Iran's actual oil facilities, but on their control of the Strait of Hormuz. If this is the direction things will take, Karg Island won't be the first priority. Instead, the U.S. will focus on the coastal areas around and on another island that's important to Iran's ability to control the area. There's a reason why this could be chosen. For now, Iran's blockade has almost affected only one route, where about 20% of the world's oil passes through. Much of this oil comes from countries that are not allies of Iran. There is a belief that mines have been placed along the shipping lanes in the Strait. Because of this, oil prices have risen to about $100 per barrel. Iran's approach is not a direct confrontation. They do not send large warships to the Strait because these would be easy targets for U.S. air power. Instead, they use simpler but more effective tactics that are harder to respond to immediately. Instead of using large warships, Iran uses a combination of drones, anti-ship missiles, and small but fast boats. Because of this, passing through the Strait of Hormuz has become dangerous for cargo ships that used to pass through here normally. This is where the role of U.S. ground forces comes in. Iran has a long coastline that covers almost the entire 100 miles of the strait. Along this stretch, there are hidden missile launch sites and improvised ports that they use for this kind of tactic. If the U.S. takes action, they might send Marines or drop paratroopers to control or destroy these important locations along the coast. If Iran loses control of these locations, they will have a hard time continuing the blockade. After this, there's another target to focus on. This is Qeshm. It's the largest island in the Persian Gulf and is located right near the Strait of Hormuz. It has a length of about 130 kilometers, or around 80.7 miles. At first glance, it doesn't seem like a military target because it's known for its nature and wildlife. In 2007, Iran even applied for the island to become a UNESCO World Heritage Site. But there's another story behind it. According to The Telegraph, there are hidden facilities underneath the island. Beneath the caves and forests, there's what they call an underground missile city, where various weapons are stored. This includes anti-ship missiles used to target ships in the Strait, and there are even tunnels that reportedly reach depths of 1,600 feet. This means that Qeshm is not just an ordinary island. It is an important part of Iran's capability to control the Strait of Hormuz. If the U.S. conducts a ground operation here, it would be a big help in reducing or completely stopping the blockade. This could possibly be preceded by airstrikes and then followed by sending paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne Division. Their objective would be to control key areas on the island and enter the tunnel network, where Iran's weapons are hidden. When you put all of this together, the possible moves of the U.S. become clearer. The Marines' assault on coastal military sites could be synchronized with air support, such as A-10 strafing runs over the Strait of Hormuz. In this setup, Iran's ability to control the strait would gradually diminish, and it's possible that the passage for ships could be reopened. This is the first clear way the U.S. could act once there are troops on the ground. But there's another option with less direct results. Instead of occupying areas, the U.S. could use special forces for targeted missions inside Iran itself. The goal here is to destroy important military sites or capture key people within the system. According to Ehud A. Lam, the U.S. could possibly carry out this kind of operation, not to stay in one place, but to attack quickly and then withdraw. With this approach, the U.S. is more focused on weakening Iran's capabilities rather than holding territory. They might target radar systems, missile sites, or other critical facilities. There could also be operations to capture high-ranking officials if the opportunity arises. This isn't a new approach for the U.S. They have the capability to carry out this kind of operation even deep inside enemy territory. But it's a different story if this is done in Iran because its defenses are bigger and more prepared compared to other countries. Another important point is that units like the 82nd Airborne Division or Marine Expeditionary Units are not really designed for this kind of mission. This is more suited for smaller and specialized groups, but they can still help, especially in targeting locations before the airstrikes follow. Overall, two clear directions can be seen. First, directly control important areas like coastal zones and islands to remove the blockade. Second, use fast and targeted operations to weaken Iran's capabilities from within. And based on current movements, both possibilities remain open as tensions in the area continue to rise. In previous operations like Operation Epic Fury and Operation Roaring Lion, it was reported that Ali Khamenei was killed on the very first day of the battle. After this, many more Iranian military and political figures disappeared in the following days. There was an idea that if the U.S. could capture an important leader like Mojtaba Khamenei, it could have leverage in negotiations. But it's also not certain how effective this would be. It's possible that Iran would just continue, even if the leadership is divided, as is already happening now. That's why targeted strikes on military sites are a more realistic option than capturing leaders. And this is where the third option comes in. The discussion goes back again to Karg. The island has a clear advantage when it comes to ground operations. Because it is separated from the mainland, it's easier to control compared to directly entering Iran. This kind of terrain is ideal for Marine Expeditionary Units and also for paratroopers who can be dropped in strategic locations. Aside from that, almost 90% of Iran's oil exports pass through here. If the U.S. controls this, the country's economy will be directly affected. That can be used as pressure to force Iran to stop the blockade in the Strait of Hormuz, or if not, completely weaken their ability to continue the fight. According to Joseph Botel, it doesn't really take a lot of soldiers to capture the island. It's estimated that only about 800 to 1,000 troops are enough for this kind of operation. This means that even without using the full force of the deployed units, it's possible to capture Karg Island. But the problem doesn't end here. It's easier to capture the island than to hold it. It's very close to the coast of Iran, only about 20 miles away. Because of this, it's easily within reach of missiles and other attacks from the mainland. If the U.S. captures the island, they will also be exposed to continuous counterattacks from Iran. And that's the real challenge in this kind of operation. According to The Atlantic, there's a serious problem with the location of Karg Island. It's close to the mainland of Iran, while the nearest U.S. base is about 140 miles away. This means that if the U.S. manages to capture the island, they would be in a situation where they have to defend it while facing continuous attacks from Iran. Resupplying would not be easy either. Every supply run comes with risks because of drones and missiles that could strike at any time. Support would not be quick either because of the distance. But even with these difficulties, there are still ways to manage the situation. For example, the U.S. could set up its own blockade around the island and bring in enough air defense systems to protect it as much as possible. If they can do that, the risk would be worth it. If the flow of income from oil exports is cut off, Iran's ability to fund its own operations will be directly affected. Even the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps will be affected. If their main source is gone, they will lose their source of funds. Even though this seems like the most straightforward option, there is another, more difficult possibility. This is entering Iran itself to seize its enriched uranium. Of the four options, this is the most complicated. This would require special forces to enter deep into the country to take control of the underground bunkers where the uranium is stored. This isn't just a simple raid. They need to seize the place and hold it against a possible counterattack. According to Joseph Votel, Places like Isfahan and Natanz are hundreds of miles inside Iran. Aside from that, most of these places are open areas with almost no natural protection. To control such a site, it may require between 1,000 to 4,000 soldiers. Engineers and specialists are also needed to safely extract the uranium. And just like the question of capturing leaders, it's also uncertain if units like Marines and paratroopers are the most suitable for this kind of operation. In other words, as the level of the target increases, the operation becomes more complicated, and the risks that need to be faced also grow. This kind of mission really seems more suited for special units like Delta Force or Navy SEALs. There might be support from the Marines and paratroopers, but it's also uncertain what exactly is happening behind the reports. There might be units already moving without the public knowing. The current deployments being seen might just be part of a show of force, while other, more secret operations are being prepared for more complicated missions that regular ground forces can't handle. If this is the direction the U.S. will take, the risk is high, but the possible reward is also great. One of the biggest reasons for Operation Epic Fury is Iran's nuclear program. Even though it's said that they don't have a nuclear weapon yet, it's clear that they're moving towards the capability to make one. According to the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation, Iran has a stockpile of up to 440.9 kilograms, or approximately 972 pounds of uranium, enriched up to 60% of the U-235 isotope. This is the type of uranium used in making nuclear weapons. Even more alarming, according to the same source, is that 99% of the process has already been completed to reach the 90% enrichment needed to produce a nuclear weapon. This means that even if they don't have an actual bomb yet, they are close to the point where they can make one. Because of this, one of the possible objectives of the U.S. is to enter Iran to seize or remove this uranium. But this is not a quick operation. It takes several days to secure, prepare, and extract the uranium. And while doing that, the soldiers also need to protect themselves against a counterattack from Iran. In the 4 possible scenarios, all have the capability to change the course of the conflict. Each one aims to strip Iran of its ability to continue the fight, from losing control over oil to losing access to nuclear materials. And whichever is chosen, it's clear that the next step will have a major impact, with effects not only on Iran, but on the entire situation of Operation Epic Fury. If control over Karg Island is lost, Iran will also lose its main source of income from oil. If the U.S. establishes a presence in the Strait of Hormuz and on Qeshm Island, Iran will have a hard time continuing its blockade. If some leaders are captured, the U.S. will have more leverage in the negotiations. And if Iran's enriched uranium is lost along with the destruction of centrifuges and other vital assets, if there are plants when these effects are combined, it could push Iran closer to a major change in government. According to Doron Kempel in an interview with CBN News, there is a possibility that some generals in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps are no longer satisfied and may defect. He added that there may be operatives from the U.S. and Israel secretly working to encourage such defections. According to him, when the right opportunity comes and the IRGC weakens, the generals could come together, coordinate with Mossad and CIA operatives, and start a bigger movement from within Iran itself. The arrival of U.S. troops on the ground could possibly serve as the turning point for that to happen. If this happens, Iran will not only face the simple loss of control over some important areas, it could even lead to the loss of power itself. Overall, it's clear that whatever step the U.S. chooses will have a significant impact. And with the way things are going, it looks like the situation is heading toward a major ground operation that could completely change the direction of the conflict. And here it becomes clearer why this situation is not just a simple military operation. This isn't just about capturing an island or destroying a few missile sites. There's much more at stake. If a full ground operation happens, it won't just affect Iran. The entire region could get involved. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the most important oil shipping routes in the world. If it completely closes or becomes dangerous, oil prices will rise, and this will be felt not only in the Middle East but also in other countries. This means that the impact of every move is not limited to the battlefield. It affects the economy, energy supplies, and the daily lives of people even far from the war. On the other hand, there's another thing that needs to be considered. Not every operation is the same. Some plans are quick, go in, attack, get out. But there are also plans that require staying in one place. And that's where the situation becomes more complicated. It's easier to get in than to stay. When U.S. forces go in and secure a target, the fight doesn't end there. They still have to make sure that Iran doesn't take it back. And in a large country, with enough weapons and the capability to attack from different directions, this is not a simple task. This is where the real question comes in. It's not about whether Iran can be invaded, it's about whether control can be maintained afterwards. And as time goes on, every decision becomes more costly. Every step comes with a corresponding risk. Every target has a possible response from the other side. In this kind of situation, there is no quick solution. Whatever is chosen, invading the island, controlling the strait, or targeting inside the country, all come with risks. But one thing is clear. This is no longer just tension. This is no longer just a simple show of force. This is gradually reaching the point where a choice must be made about how far the next step will go. And when that point comes, it won't just be a fight between two countries. It will be a conflict that the whole world will feel. And as the forces draw closer and the possible targets become clearer, there's another thing that cannot be ignored. War is not always measured by the number of soldiers or the strength of weapons. Sometimes it's about timing. It's about when to act and when to stop. In this situation, both sides are watching each other. Both are waiting to see who will make the first move that can't be taken back. Because with just one wrong move, the fight could grow much bigger. And when the fight gets bigger, more places will be affected. More people will be affected. More countries will be forced to choose sides. This is the reason why, even though there are already soldiers in position, the ground operation still hasn't started right away. It's not because they can't do it, but because they know how big the possible consequences could be. With each passing day, the pressure on both sides intensifies. While there is still no clear decision, preparations continue. And in this kind of tension, it only takes one small incident to change everything. One wrong interpretation of the opponent's move. An unexpected attack or a decision made too early. When that happens, what comes next might no longer be stopped. And that's when things enter a phase that's no longer under the plan's control. In the end, it's not just strength that will decide what happens, but who is more prepared to face the consequences of their next move. In this kind of situation, even silence has meaning. Just because there are no gunshots and no movement on the ground, it doesn't mean that everyone is safe. Sometimes, the most dangerous part of a war is that moment when everything is quiet, but both sides are ready to act. Because behind that silence, plans are already in place, targets have already been chosen, and orders are just waiting to be given. And when that moment comes, things will happen quickly. There will be no long warning, no enough time to retreat. So while there is still no clear first move, the whole world remains on alert, waiting to see who will make the first move and what the consequences will be. This